I have a fraternity brother of mine, a very good friend of mine, recruited me to go to college, recruited me into a fraternity, got in a car wreck, and now he's paralyzed from the neck down. He's also an insurance agent, right? So now he had to deal with his own company, and he had an uninsured motorist, a UM policy that paid $25,000. The other guy had state minimum coverage. He's paralyzed for the rest of his life, right? There is no good answer for him there. You're a lot of times working with the injuries and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm trying to get their car put back to whole. I'm trying to get the house, rebuilt, or I'm trying to help the company that's, got a problem. So it's not like I don't see it on my side too, that the insurance companies, you don't realize sometimes, even as the guy who gives the advice, right? You just didn't pay attention. The builder's house is never built. The cobbler's shoes are never fixed, right? That kind of a scenario. And I have friends of mine who won't write their own insurance for that reason. They actually buy insurance from another agent so that someone else is watching out for their.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mind Your Own Business podcast. I'm attorney Jerry Parisi, and with me today is Chad Bingham of Bingham Insurance Group, and also running for state representative for House District 31 here in the Jackson County area.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, most of the district is Jackson County. There's a little section of Hall County, so I'll be in that delegation as well. But gotcha. Mainly Jackson County.
A little bit of East Hall in there?
Just a little bit. Yeah, around the Pendergrass-Talmo area.
And you've been living in Jackson County for how long now?
I've lived in Jackson County for a little over 6 years, but I've had a business here for almost 15.
Okay, cool.
So,
and where did you come from originally?
I'm originally from Cape Canaveral, Florida.
Oh, cool. So, I was just there.
Yeah, I grew up watching space shuttles. My dad worked at the space program and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, me and the family just went to the Kennedy Space Center, and then we saw a SpaceX launch. Me and my son went out 10 o'clock at night on the beach and watched SpaceX launch a shuttle. It was pretty cool.
Nothing like watching the sun. Almost looks like the sun coming out of the ground.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. I was like, wow, this is wild.
Yeah. So I grew up like that. I thought everybody did actually, getting to meet astronauts and all that. I thought that was normal, but apparently it's not.
Yeah. I didn't know that there was a whole space coast and everything was like space themed down there on the beach. It was weird.
I went to astronaut high school, if that tells you anything.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, it's been interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, so, running for the House, obviously having been a commissioner in Jackson County and understanding the needs and the things that go on in Jackson County and how the government works and the communications, I think I'm well suited to do this job. But the other thing a lot of people don't know is Jackson County doesn't have a single rep down there. We don't have a House or senator that lives in Jackson County. We're the fastest growing county in the state of Georgia. And we have, of course we have representatives down there, but no one that lives here, drives in the traffic every day, deals with the roads, deals with the infrastructure problems, has kids in the schools, things like that. So
what you're saying is I shouldn't pay my taxes without representation, correct?
Oh man, I'm going to let you as an attorney deal with that one, and I'll let you take that one to court.
Gotcha. Okay, so from your time as a county commissioner here in Jackson, what have you learned that you think you could take with you to the State House?
So really, it's how things work, like internally, and how important the relationship is at the state level, because you can do quite a few things at the county level to help local, but there are state funds and grants and those kind of things that if they're there, have access to them, really can speed up a lot of things that are going on. So, and there's a lot of local legislation that people don't know about. The authority of the county commission really comes from the state and through the Constitution. It's granted there. So if you want to change things and how they're done or how things are voted, they actually have to go to the Capitol to be voted on to change how things are done and send them back. So, yeah, there's a lot there that you can do to help move things around. So
you mentioned something I want to point out. You said there's grants and there's money down there to be had to speed things up. Mm-hmm. So the last time I checked, I don't know if the statistic is still correct, but Jackson County was one of the 4 fastest growing counties in the state.
In the country.
In the country.
Yeah.
Maybe second in the state, something like that. I don't know if it still is. There are a lot of people that don't want a ton of growth.
Sure. The
growth may be coming either way. What is your approach? What are your thoughts on the growth and how to manage it?
So this is another thing that I think is helpful, having been a commissioner, because I have these conversations with the current commissioners now, and even the mayors and all that, is the understanding of the plan, right? If you plan the growth and you do make intelligent decisions, right? A lot of people are saying, hey, all we see right now are gas station storage units, that kind of thing.
Mexican restaurants also.
Whatever. There you go. But as a commissioner, you can go in and say exactly what they did is they said, hey, we're going to put special use permits on gas stations and storage units and a couple of other things so that they can control where they go and put things where they make sense, right? So when you have the interstate interchange coming to Highway 60, and I know you asked about people that don't want growth, but the interchange is coming to Highway 60. That's going to happen.
When you say the interchange, it's going to be on 85.
85.
Exit and entrance ramp for 85.
Right.
Okay.
So with that, in that area, you can expect there to be, or I would expect, let's say, a lot of commercial activity to go on in that area. So now it's up to the commissioners to protect that, right? We don't do rezonings. We don't do, all the things that change it away from the things that we want, right? Let's say you don't want to start building a lot of houses and townhouses where you could have commercial come in and help with property tax. So if you have these commercial units come in that have the sales tax that's going to help fund the schools and the county, then the burden on the residents of Jackson County actually comes down because the property taxes can come down.
Okay.
Although they are trying to get rid of that at the state altogether. So
that was my next question. So,
sure.
Okay. So I know
here we go. Yeah.
I know that there was a bill. I can't remember the bill name. It didn't pass through the House.
Yeah. Yesterday or day before. Yeah.
A couple days ago. Can you tell us what was in that bill? What went on? Why didn't it pass? And what your thoughts were, or whether it should have passed?
So I can tell you the way that I understand it. How about that?
Yeah.
So it was the property tax relief bill. And what they were going to do with that was you have to replace the revenue, right? You can't look at the school system and say, hey, we're just taking property tax away from you and good luck funding your schools, right? That's because right now half the school money comes from property tax. The other half comes from back from the state. But what they were going to do is for homesteaded people, not for everyone, but if you're homesteaded in Jackson County or any county, if you're homesteaded in Georgia, you are not going to have to pay property tax on the homesteaded property. Now, all the rest of the properties, the rental properties, the commercial property, all that property tax stays. Okay, so once they did that, now they're going to have to increase. You got to get the money from somewhere, so it goes to more of a consumption tax, which sales tax is where it was probably going. So you're probably looking at about a 3 to 4 cent increase in sales tax to make that up. So the problem that people had with that is sales tax is up and down depending on how you're going. Jackson County being one of the fastest growing counties right now has pretty good revenue going on. Hall County, Gwinnett County obviously have big commercial items. So not bad for them either. But now you go down to South Georgia where the majority of the county is agriculture, right? And they don't have that kind of thing. Now what do you do? How do you? So the thing I had to remember that I think about a lot is, yes, it's good for Jackson County, but when at the state, when you throw that blanket on it, you throw it on 159 counties, right? It's not just your county. You have to think about the entire state. But you asked about that bill, but that's what they wanted to do with it. It didn't pass. I think they needed 20 Democrats to vote. So it has to be, I can't remember the percentage, 60% or whatever it is, which means they needed 20 Democrats to vote. They got one to vote with them, so it didn't pass out of the House. Now, there is an income tax bill that's coming out of the Senate to deal with income tax.
Okay, what's in that bill to your understanding?
My understanding of that is, so the way that it's been explained to me is basically the state income tax would go away up to, for the first filing combined, first $100,000 that you make.
Okay.
So if you're single, it's the first $50,000 you make. If you're filing combined, it's the first $100,000 you make. And then the income tax, brackets continue after that. But it basically removes the taxes. I think they said for around 64% of Georgians, basically wipes out income tax for something like that.
Oh.
And then, but their plan was the corporate welfare that's down there, all the money that we give to businesses to come here or to do business here, that we get rid of a chunk of that and shift that back to the people.
So
right?
So the plan is corporations would pay higher taxes. Is that right?
Well, no, it's more the abatements that come in. Where at the state level, when they give abatements, let's just say, we'll do SK Battery, right? SK Battery came in. I think the number that the state level gave, I think it was $330 million is what was. I believe that's what they allotted to SK Battery. So with that, you're just going to say, hey, we're not doing that, or at least
tax breaks to those
at that level, right? Well, let's be honest. Tax breaks to any of them are just mining your tax dollars, right? We're going to pay the bill, right? So at the end of the day, if you stop doing that and you make them pay the portion that they should pay coming in, then the burden is on the corporation and not on the residents of Georgia. And that's their plan, is to take what they refer to as corporate welfare, cut it down, and not make the Georgians pay for it.
So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's something that would, I guess, drive corporations out of the state?
I don't know it's going to drive anybody out of the state. I'm all for the right opportunity and the right thing coming here. I love manufacturing jobs. I love the higher tech jobs, those kind of things. But the opportunity just has to be the right fit for what Georgia is and what we're trying to do. But, right now they're talking about the data centers coming in and what they're doing there. Well, the data centers aren't going to have a ton of jobs for Georgians.
Why is that?
They just don't require a lot of people. Now the build and all that's going to take, make it pretty, but once a data center is up and running, there's not much.
The machines do the job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have all your IT, your tech people, but it's just not going to be a ton of people.
Gotcha.
If you had a manufacturing job in that same size space, I mean, you're going to employ, 10, 20, 30 times the number of people. And those are the kind of jobs that are opportunities, I guess, where I look at and say, hey, we need to do something. But I'm also a big proponent of the smaller guy who's here, the mom and pop shop who's done a great job. Now all of a sudden they want to double the size of their opportunity so that they can move forward too. How about looking for something for them, right? Whether the state can help fund it, the county can help. We need to do something to help these guys who have, started a business here, been loyal here, and done those kind of been good corporate citizens for Jackson County or the state of Georgia, really, and figure out something to do for them. I mean, that's the heartbeat of America. I mean, let's be honest. You're going to give hundreds of millions of dollars to corporations. I think you should be helping, Main Street America, Main Street Georgia, and helping the mom and pop shops who are trying to employ local people and are local.
So what sort of help do you think we should be given to those sort of smaller businesses?
So there's not a huge thing. I mean, but there's all kinds of, you've got permitting, you've got water taps, you got all kinds of things that come into the driving the cost of building a building up, right? You try to, you go down to build a commercial building or build a house, and a big chunk of that now is, the red tape and the permits and all that. It just adds to the cost of the house, right? No builder is they're going to pass it all along, right? To whoever buys it or uses it, it's all going to get passed along. And in that opportunity where someone's trying to stay here, why are we making them? It's almost like a punishment for doing a good job.
Yeah.
It feels like, right? You did a good job here. Congratulations. You're going to get to pay the county or the state, all this extra money just to continue doing what you're doing and doing it at a better level. And these people are the ones who are sponsoring the soccer teams and the baseball teams, and their signs are on the fences, right? Like you and I, the small business guys, like our names are on the fences at the schools. Those are the people that we should really be, in my opinion, looking to try to help.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think some of the bigger businesses also, but the money stays here sometimes. You sponsor baseball teams. I know I get hit up every other day for this charity, that charity, nonprofits, which I love to help.
Yeah.
But that money stays here. I think that's a good thing, as opposed to a huge corporation that, may be sending money who knows where.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll back up real quick to the SK Battery thing. I mean, when I was working on the Empower College and Career Center, I think over the time that they had invested, it's over $250,000 that they put into helping us at the Empower Center here in Jackson County, and Piedmont Athens Regional. I mean, there's Jackson EMC. So there are big corporations that are doing that, being good corporate citizens as well. But I would just like to see the smaller guy get the hand every once in a while.
Speaking of SK Battery and things like that, do you think those have been good decisions for the county in this area, or do you think that they could have been improved?
So I go back to this. When I started my business almost 15 years ago, I want to say that the unemployment rate in Jackson County was around 14, 15%.
Wow.
right? Now it's at 2. So yes, I would say that what we've done and what has been done in Jackson County, bringing places like SK Battery, because the other part you don't realize is all their suppliers that have come here and are also hiring people, and Amazon coming here and hiring people, and benefits out of the gate over $20 an hour. Like there's a lot of people who weren't going to have the capability to get a job of that level in Jackson County that now have the option because of a place like SK Battery coming and bringing their suppliers here.
Gotcha. What lessons do you think the county has learned through SK Battery that they might be able to employ the next time a larger corporation wants to move to town?
So it's interesting. A lot of people don't realize SK Battery is actually in Commerce, like in the city of Commerce. It's not in unincorporated Jackson County for the county. But there's all kinds of things there, right? The county didn't do any kind of tax abatements or anything like that. So I think it proved to itself, hey, these big companies, they will come to the right location with the right employees and the right opportunity around them and the places that they can bring their suppliers. And I think what the county has also realized is the play that can be made, so to speak, when you get that you don't necessarily have to have the big guy, right? SK Battery, that's great. But if anybody like them is anywhere in the area, having the ability to even bring their suppliers to your area is also a big get, whether it makes mainstream news or not. There are a ton of opportunities, and I think that's, with the county and the Chamber of Commerce now hiring a new economic developer, I just think all these kind of things are going to be huge. I mean, the county really is doing a really good job of positioning itself to grow smart, right? They're having the meetings with all the commissioners and the mayors and all a lot of the groups that have a stake in this, and trying to get a plan that they're all okay with, that they all want to go with. And if you want to stay where you're at, then fine. If you are looking to grow commercially, we can do that. If you're looking to grow residentially, we can do that. If you just want to stay ag, we can work through that as well. And I think with all of the pieces that are coming, I think that's what they learned with something like SK, that you all have to be on the same page. If you're not on the same page and something like that hits, it can be a scramble, to say the least.
So what page are we on? Right. So I guess what I'm asking is, behind the scenes, you mentioned multiple times that there's a plan, or we have to have the same plan and everybody's got to be in on it. The growth is coming.
Sure.
Some people are less than excited about becoming the next Gwinnett County, something like that. Traffic, with all that growth comes crime, other issues. What is Jackson County going to look like, and what should it look like, and what's the plan for the next 10 plus years?
And I kind of leave this is a little bit of a loaded question, but and I'm not dodging the answer when I say this, but the municipalities are going to be part of what really decides that, right? And I tell people all the time, if you don't think elections matter, right, your local officials, your town and city mayors and council members are the ones who really can affect your everyday life. And I mean everyday life, for the kind of business they want to bring in. If somebody brings in, and Houston is dealing with this right now, I think they've got 5,000 or 6,000 housing permits approved, or of lots approved, that at any point in time they're already building on some, but and not necessarily because of the group that's in there. But this is the problem. Here's reality. Here's what you have to deal with, right? That's where they're at. And then you could have someone else who has said, hey, we're not going to do residential because our digest is done off commercial, and we want to set up a destination kind of a place. Let's just say Brazelton. And if you put the two together, right, if you have Brazelton wanting to be a destination, you have some people that want to be the bedroom community, you have some people who want the retail sales where you just come visit for the day and leave. You can build that intelligently, is what I'm saying. But all the people, all the groups have to kind of agree. And if you don't agree with that in the city or town that you live in, then you need to run for office or find somebody who aligns with you and ask them to run for office. But these local elections, county down, they're what affects your everyday life. I mean, look, I'm all for voting for the governor and the president and all that. But your mayor and council members, they literally affect your everyday life.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. And I also, every time there's a local election, I look at the numbers and I'm astounded at how few people vote in our local, for the mayor, for the county commissioner, for things that are not during a presidential election. And I'm just dumbfounded that people, and then when I talk to, people, like they have no idea who's running, or if they do know who's running, they don't know what they stand for.
Yeah. I mean, to look back at the last few years, I saw a mayoral race, I think, that had 88 total votes in the whole race. I was like, holy cow. And for people who say, hey, well, my vote, it doesn't matter, it doesn't really count. We had 3 municipalities that were 1 vote. This one ended up on a mail-in ballot going to 2 votes. But at one point, when it closed before mail-in ballots, we had 3 that were a 1 single vote difference. And then obviously another race that ended up being 2, right? So your vote, especially in the local elections. Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, you always hear the politicians saying, hey, take your neighbor, take 3 friends or whatever. In that case, that would have swung an election if you would have voted and taken 2 of your friends. Yeah. Like you could have decided.
Show up at the nursing home with a bus and tell them who to vote for.
Show up, tell them who to vote for. Is that what you said? Yeah. Let's not do that. They'll need you right after that if they do that. So they'll need your law services.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Switching to law services. So you're an insurance guy.
I am.
I'm a personal injury guy. And a big thing that happened last year at the Capitol was tort reform.
Sure.
I'm sure we're on different sides on this, and I don't think it's going to end where it is right now.
Oh, I don't think
so what are your thoughts on tort reform going forward, and what do you want to see happen at the state level? So
something somewhere had to get with the way that things were going, and I'll just say some of the lawsuits that were getting paid out. I have a fraternity brother of mine, a very good friend of mine, recruited me to go to college, recruited me into a fraternity. Guy in a car wreck, and now he's paralyzed from the neck down. He's also an insurance agent, right? So now he had to deal with his own company, and he had an uninsured motorist, a UM policy that paid $25,000. The other guy had state minimum coverage. He's paralyzed for the rest of his life, right? There is no good answer for him there. They came in, they said, well, hey man, you could sue, and you can this, and you can that, and they looked for all kinds of stuff, but he didn't end up going that route. He just said, you know what, we're gonna take what we have, and we're gonna, do what we need to do. There, he couldn't find anything that he considered negligent, right? And he wasn't just gonna, in his own mind, just file and he said this, just file the lawsuit to see what I can get. And he's like, I just don't believe in that. So whenever I think about these things, I think about him. Right. And in his situation, his life has changed forever. And in those situations, those people have to be taken care of. Right. There has to be a mechanism that allows those people whose lives are altered and are changed, because the reason for insurance is to make you whole, right? To put you back or in the best position as close to back to whole as you can.
Sure.
That's the whole thing with insurance. Insurance isn't to be there to make you, an instant millionaire or anything like that. Now, if there's negligence and all that other kind of stuff, that's a whole nother.
It's not to get your attorney a second lake house, correct?
As well, second, maybe third, probably not.
Yeah.
No, I'm just. So, I mean, I look at tort reform. Something had to be done because there were lawsuits out there, in my opinion, that were, I'll just say frivolous lawsuits that they were just slinging it until they could, for stupid numbers, right? And I won't really bring up the big guys that come in and their ads are on TV all the time.
We all see them. We all know who they are.
And they literally will sue for anything, kind of a deal. So I think there's had to be some parameters, but I also think there's got to be some work done on the insurance side, right? I'm an insurance agent. I know you fight for your clients to get, what they can and get what they need. Let's be honest, at least to get what they need. And on my side, I fight the same fight with a lot of times the property damage side, right? You're a lot of times working with the injuries and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm trying to get their car put back to whole. I'm trying to get the house rebuilt, or I'm trying to help the company that's, got a problem. So it's not like I don't see it on my side too, that the insurance companies will fight you tooth and nail. Now there are some things going on there, and I've had some conversations with the guys at the state level and with the commissioner's insurance commissioned office. And I've even, matter of fact, I sat the last 2 days with some executives from a really large company that you see on TV all the time. And I told them, I said, here's the problem, right? The industry has gone to outsourcing claims. Not everybody, but the industry as a whole. So now you have a set of companies out there who are interested in doing the claims, but also how they're paid, in some cases, not all cases, is how much can you save, right? The company on a claim.
These are independent adjusters, right? They're not tied to, say, XYZ.
That do for everybody. Company. Yeah, they whoever brings them. And to me, that's a horrible idea. If you incentivize somebody to basically strong arm people out of what is rightfully, that's a terrible way. And as an agent, when I run across those guys, I'll call the carriers and be like, hey, this is what these guys are doing. This is not acceptable. I'm not representing a company that acts like this, right? And does business like this. And so there's some work that has to be done. And that's just one of the things that I've talked about is, how do you manage that, right? How do we, because insurance is mandated, right? The state mandates it, got to have it. And now you're trying to say the prices the insurance companies are going through the roof, and everybody's pointing the finger saying, well, it's the attorney's fault because their lawsuits are crazy. And the attorney's saying, well, the only reason I'm having to sue is because you won't do your job and pay the claim. Like if you took care of people, you wouldn't need an attorney. Imagine that. And, so you're going to go back and forth with this. This is not a problem that one tort reform bill is going to fix, and it's not a bill that one bill for the insurance companies or whatever is going to fix. Like we're going to have to work this out, and I think you have to invite people to the table who are in that industry to actually come up with to help come up with the legislation, right? Because lobbyists are going to lobby for their guy, right? And what they're paid to lobby for. But I think sometimes being a House rep in the county, coming back and sitting down with you and just saying, all right, Jerry, with this whole thing, where is it that we can go? Where it makes sense? What is it that doesn't make sense? What is really, causing the ruffles here that people are really upset about in your industry? And being in insurance, like I got a few, right, that we could go after right now. But I think that's what it's really going to take is common sense. But again, remember, you're throwing that blanket across 159 counties. Yeah. Right? Not just one and not just a big city, right?
Well, it's refreshing to hear you say that there's some work that needs to be done on the insurance side. Because, to be frank, I've sat with, your predecessor or the person who's in the seat that you want now, the Capitol, and there was no sort of talk about what the insurance industry could do better. Where I think, a lot of the blame and a lot of the scapegoating comes on the personal injury attorneys because you see the commercials, you see the TV shows and the late night talk show jokes about, the hot coffee case, which is a whole nother thing that we could get into, but we're not going to today. What are your thoughts on, I guess, one thing that I'm interested in is, the state minimum limits are $25,000 per person, $50,000 per accident. Right. That may have been fine, 25 years ago with prices. An ambulance ride, an ER visit could easily exceed the state minimum limits. What are your thoughts on raising those limits?
So now I'm gonna go at this from an insurance agent, not a political. As an insurance agent, I don't recommend anything under 100, 300, right? The cost alone. Thank you for that. The cost alone of cars these days is astronomical. And people don't realize, okay, so the 2550, that's 25, the liability like for injuries, or 50 for the total accident, and then your property is the last number, is 25. Name a car for $25,000 if you total it, a new car, that you're going to be able to go buy.
A Matchbox car.
Right, exactly. That's about it. So, and I tell people all the time, I also do what's called added on coverage.
Okay, can you explain that to us?
Yes, I will. Insurance policies give you an option with uninsured motorists or underinsured motorists. That's the other part. People don't realize I think it's over 20% now of people who are not insured or underinsured in the state of Georgia, but that's a whole nother topic. So when you're in an accident, let's say you and I are in an accident and I'm at fault and your insurance, and my insurance is a 100-300 policy and your bills are $250,000, right? So my whole $100,000 for you is going to pay out, right? Well, now you still have $150,000 to pay. Well, if you carry 100-300 and you have a reduced by policy is what they call them, then because I paid 100, it subtracts the 100 from what your insurance company is willing to pay. So now you have zero. You've now been paying for uninsured motorist that pays you nothing.
Yeah.
If you have the added on, no matter if I had $1 million or $10 million, it doesn't matter what I have. If your injuries and your bills are more than what my policy paid out, up to your $100,000 would then be paid out to you. It's not a significant difference in the price.
That's what I was going to ask.
It's not.
On your side, as the agent, what do you see as the price difference? Is it?
I mean, less than $50 a month is what I usually see, depending on how many cars and what you have. I mean, it's all relative. But again, I go back to my friend who was in that situation, right? And he was an agent.
Yeah.
Right. And had it in proper, and he said it. He said, man, you don't realize sometimes, even as the guy who gives the advice, right? You didn't pay attention. The builder's house is never built. The cobbler's shoes are never fixed, right? That kind of a scenario. And I have friends of mine who won't write their own insurance for that reason. They actually buy insurance from another agent so that someone else is watching out for their insurance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Yeah. I thought so. I like getting paid on my own money. So it's, I do it myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where some of the things that we do that I talk about with people, but back to the state level, just with the price of cars alone, if at least you get at least double it, you at least got to go to 50, 100, I think at the state level. Mm-hmm. I personally would like to see it go, be higher than that, but I also realize that you got a state minimum. And the reason, again, throwing that blanket, is you're dealing with all incomes here, right? From the wealthy to the people who need as much help as they can get. And, you don't want to price them out either, right? And then you don't want an undue burden or, the hidden tax, as people like to refer to things like that. But at the same time, proper insurance is one of the things that has to be addressed, right? If people because you force insurance and I ask you, how far do you drive? And you say, I drive 5 miles to work. Well, if you have an hour commute, it's a little hard to be 5 miles from work, maybe not in traffic some days. But, but the point is to have everyone properly insured would change the insurance pool as well. Because if you're driving an hour and I am driving 5 minutes, right, then I shouldn't be paying the same price as the guy that's driving an hour. Obviously, the more time you spend in the car, the more likely you are to...
The risk is higher.
Right, sure. But we don't really have a way to know that. And I don't know what I'm not trying to be Big Brother either, right? So how do you...
Put computers in there's already computers in the car, but you don't want to track everybody.
Right.
Because then you're...
Yeah. I mean, I have methods. I'm not going to put them out on the internet of how you could do it without being intrusive, let's say. Mm-hmm. But they already do look at oil changes. All that stuff is loaded up in there. They can actually ask you for certified odometer readings if they want to, things like that. But again, not everybody has a PhD, right? So when they ask you about the education as an insurance agent, there are discounts for everything from credit to education levels to male, female kind of car, how far you drive, safety of the vehicle, like all those things, right, are taken into consideration. Where you live, how many accidents are at a radius that is around your house or zip code are all considered. And, there's just some things in there. Sometimes you're like, I don't know that we should be, looking at things that way. But again, there are some things that need to be done. And again, I spent 2 days in a conference talking about that very, some of these very conversations we were at that point talking about commercial policies, but same problem. Commercial vehicles in Georgia are extremely unprofitable for insurance.
Really?
Yeah, because this is going to be one for you. as soon as an attorney sees a company's name on it, the price tag goes up for what they sue for. And it's just a fact. Like they have the stats, the same kind of accident, same kind of car damage. It's exponentially higher.
And the reason is the minimum limits a company has to carry on commercial policy is a lot higher.
They tend to carry close to $1 million coverage on vehicles. So they see the bigger number versus a 25, 50 number. But again, if it's a necessary thing, then you deserve to be made whole.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you fix that? I don't know. I mean, I have some ideas, and I've seen some other states and the way that they do things, but that requires, working with the insurance company and, what you're going to do there as well. This is not a one-sided thing for me. Okay. And I'm an insurance agent, right? I make my living obviously off of selling insurance, and, the higher, this is kind of a weird quagmire almost to be in, because the higher the premiums go, obviously the higher the commission. It's the same percentage, but the numbers go up, right?
Yeah.
And here I am saying we've got to do something to get these down, because they're not sustainable, where they're at. And it's going to take, a look all the way around. It can't just be insurance and attorneys. I mean, there's the repair guys, there's, all kinds, there's an entire industry, right? That you can look at. And I'm sure somewhere in all that is our pieces to this puzzle. And that's really what it's going to take. It's not going to be just tort reform. It's not going to be just fixing, things with insurance companies. It's not going to be just figuring out what do you do with people who the 20+% that don't have insurance or are underinsured? Like, what do you do with that? That's a whole nother problem. What do you do with people who are giving you incorrect information to get a lower rate? Right? I mean, part of the problem comes back to us as individuals not telling the truth when we supply the information.
Along those lines, so I know we touched on this before we started, but I didn't give you the whole story on one of these issues. I don't want to get your thoughts on this real quick.
Okay.
So we've gotten a lot of insurers telling us that they're not going to cover a claim because there's an undisclosed driver driving the car. What I mean by that is this person is not listed on the policy as an insured driver, right? Mm-hmm. What we're seeing is that these are children of the vehicle owner, and they're not disclosed on the policy. Now, we've talked to a few people, and they're telling us that their parents are going to their agent asking, for the best rates. The agent is advising them not to put the children on the vehicle. They're still going to cover it. The agent's going to fight for them if there's an issue, but they're not disclosed. Inevitably, somebody gets into a wreck. We send a demand letter saying, hey, you're insured, hit our client, caused this much in damage, this much in medical expenses, pay this much, right?
Sure.
They're coming back to us with this client or this driver was not disclosed in the policy because they drive, and their carve out is if they drive so much, right, they have to be disclosed. They have to be covered. Sure. It's not like a cousin coming in and driving for the weekend.
Permissible use in that case.
Right. Yeah. So it's somebody who's driving this vehicle a lot. I think it was like, at least 3 days a week and 3 months out of the year, something in the policy. If they drive so much, then they have to be disclosed on the policy and your rates are going to go up. But there are agents out there that are telling clients not to list these drivers.
Sure.
So that they can get lower rates. What are your thoughts on that?
That has been I've seen that in insurance. As long as I've been in insurance,
it's not a new thing.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So because it's called permissible use, right? And usually the line that I'll hear, and it doesn't make this right or wrong, I'm just going to tell you the line that the line usually is if you have two parents and a youth driver in the house, and you have two cars, mom and dad's cars, then they will say, hey, you could just leave the student as permissible use because dad's using the car to go to work. So is mom, and the kid just drives it, on the weekends or to run errands. They will say that's a permissible use driver. Insurance companies are going to disagree with that and say you should list him on the policy, right? The other side of that is where if you have a third car for that student, then you absolutely put them on the policy, right? Because now they have their own vehicle. That's insurance agents, not right or wrong, tend to say, hey, if they have their own vehicle, then you need to write the policy for them. Now, remember what we talked about doing it right? Mm-hmm. So what happens is dad drives an old truck, mom drives the new Tahoe, student has a fairly new car, right? Because they want safety. Well, they put the student on dad's old truck and put dad on the new car while the student's driving the new car, right? So now you've misrepresented what is really happening. And then that student gets in an accident in that brand new car. And now the insurance company's like, we weren't collecting premium for them driving a brand new car. Right. We were insuring the 07 pickup truck. Right. And so you end up in that dispute too. Now, I have seen in the past when you do the permissible use thing we talked about, where insurance companies come back to the parents and say, hey, that kid's been driving for 6 months. This is the premium that should have been paid. You owe us the back premium for that kid. And sometimes it's they get a ticket or, God forbid it is an accident or something like that. The insurance companies have come back and said, you owe us because you didn't, you didn't properly report that. So I've actually seen that happen several times.
Interesting.
And a lot of times it comes back from a ticket. A ticket shows up and then the insurance company's like, wait a minute, there's a youth driver in the house. And, it turns into a thing. So outside of the actual exclusion saying this driver is excluded, because I have seen that kid gets all kinds of tickets and accidents or whatever, how he has a license. Sometimes I don't know.
Johnny's not a safe driver, so we're not going to cover him.
Yeah. They will allow you to put him on one vehicle and exclude him from yours.
Okay.
Right. There are companies who are like, look, we'll insure mom and dad. We're not touching that. Yeah. And you have to exclude little Johnny on the policy. Now I have seen that, and we write it that way. We put Johnny on his own standalone policy, and if he is driving mom and dad's car and anything happens, it is definitely not covered.
Yeah, if he sneaks out at night to go see his girlfriend,
or they say, hey, take the car and go get us a gallon of milk.
Yeah,
I said, don't do it. Don't do it. But whether or not the permissible use thing is there and how often they drive, I mean, like I said, I'm not going to get into we're supposed to report a driver if we know it as an agent.
Gotcha.
So
cool. What are your thoughts? I know housing costs and prices are out of control. Right?
Sure.
What are your thoughts? What can the state do at the state level with legislation to try to curb some of these rising costs and help people afford homes?
So glad you asked this one, Jerry. I've been waiting on this one. Now, so there are actually plans out there to help home buyers. Now, I brought this up to our commissioners. I've brought it up to the Chamber of Commerce and some other people, and they're like, I had no idea these programs even existed at the state level. So there are programs. I can look them up real quick when we're done, and I'll give them to you. But there are programs that will help with grants toward home buyers. This was an idea that came up, I don't even remember when it was, decades ago, when they were having a similar issue of getting people into homes. But what happens with it is if you stay in the home, if you work certain level jobs, let's say you're a teacher, you're a police officer, firefighter, first responder, they got a couple of other things that are listed there. But
attorney?
No, probably not. Oh. But not an insurance agent either. It was weird. They didn't list that one either. But basically, if you work, and it's a pretty broad opportunity, if you work in one of those fields and you stay in the house over, I think it's 5 years, then it's forgiven, right? And then you can just go on from there. If you sell the house at any point in time before those 5 years, then you owe, when you sell your house, you owe part of that money back. And that money can help with your down payments and all kinds of things that you can do trying to get into your first home. All that's at the state. It's already there. No one that I'm aware of has advertised.
I've never heard of it.
When I started going through all this stuff, when I started running for this office and I start looking for ways to make this happen, and I really am, I just try to think of ideas, right? I'm like, okay, yes, we're going to do this. Now, how are we going to do it, right? I think that's how I became, being an entrepreneur. I think that's half of the thing. You just had to say, yeah, we're doing it and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
As we get there. I start looking for these things, I start finding these things, and I'm like, holy cow, these opportunities are here. But now what if you partnered with the county on some opportunities where you're at for these same kind of jobs, where the county can get involved with, I'll just say it like this. So you do contracts to build roads, right? If you had an opportunity where you could say, okay, I need to build 20 houses, and you bid these houses like you bid roads, right? And so the county starts out, they own the property. You bid it to somebody else, which means you don't have all the permitting issues. You don't have all the extra costs that we were talking about a minute ago, all thrown into building this house. They still got to meet zoning. They still got to do all the things, but now you're paying the contractor for his work and his work alone. Right? That's just the cost of the house. And when you get that, and now you have these grants from the state to help these people with the upfront costs, right? You have the county also involved. And if they work in the county and they live in that house for 5 years, that you could also make that a grant program to figure out how how that falls off, right? My sister was a teacher. If she taught at a underprivileged school for a certain number of years, they wiped out her school debt, which she did. Right? Same kind of a concept. If you work these jobs in the county and, this is an opportunity, you have the opportunity to wipe this debt off, right? So there are ways, and these are just ideas that I've come up with just me. Imagine if we got into a room full of people and actually really started, working this and kicking this idea around where we could really make a difference. But there are opportunities. You got to work a little bit, right? It's not going to be as simple as me going down there and saying, hey, we're changing the square footage and you have to use this level of materials. I don't like to dictate things like that because I believe in capitalism, right? And I believe capitalism will answer the question one way or the other, right? If you build houses that aren't affordable, sooner or later people can't buy them.
Yeah.
And you're going to be sitting on them. Then you're going to have 2008, right? Here we come. There comes the housing market. Don't want that either. But there are options for what we're talking about with the, affordable first-time homes or whatever and all that kind of stuff. I know you hear the federal government talking about going to 50-year mortgages. That's a whole nother discussion for another day. But 30 years already locks up generational money.
Yeah.
You end up paying 2 or 3 times the value of your house in a mortgage. And anyway, like I said, that's a whole nother financial
50 years seems
discussion.
insane to me, but.
Well, and we're one of the only countries. So I travel all over the world doing mission trips. Right. And we're one of the only countries that I visit that have one generation living in one house. I go to all these other countries and grandma, grandpa, the parents, the kids, all 3 generations, almost to a country, all live in the same house or complex or compound. And some of these houses the floors are about big enough for them to sleep in them, all those people. But that's not good or bad. I'm just saying.
Well, it's I don't want you to give my wife any ideas because I don't want to share a house with my in-laws.
Me neither. So you can edit this part out, whatever. No, but
we'll see if they watch. We'll see if they watch. Comment down below if you're watching.
Yeah. See how that goes. Because look, I won a lottery when it came to in-laws, and I don't think they want to live in the house with me, and I don't think I want them in my house either. But anyway, so yeah, with the affordable housing thing, there are ideas out there and there are levers out there. Are they easy? No, to get to, but they're there. If we decide to want to go to use them, there are some opportunities that are there. And like I said, I've started kicking these ideas around, kind of on the county level and with some of the mayors, just like, hey, are you guys is there any interest in doing this? Because it's not going to be easy. Like it is going to be a little painful. But I think that we could do this. Like, and I've asked people, like, hey, is this against the law? Like, can we do this? And they're like, it's never been done.
You just do it, then you ask for forgiveness later.
But the whole point, but the point was there is nothing saying you can't, right?
Then it's legal.
Right, exactly. And that's what we said. We're like, well, imagine that if we actually could carry this out, if Jackson County, like the example that we could be, across the state to say, hey, you actually can do this, and you can change this formula to fit your fit your needs and fit your wants. And if you don't want affordable housing because you don't want people moving in there, then don't do any of it.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there's money at the state level for things like that, grants, different things. Last time I checked, there was a big surplus that Georgia had, maybe around $1 billion or something. What do you think that money should be used? And that's a good problem to have, right?
Sure.
Great problem to have. That we're
sure beats the alternative.
Exactly. Some other states we won't name, but what do you think that money could be used for? Should be used for? Should it just sit there for a rainy day?
So we have a rainy day fund at the state, like we have
separate from the surplus.
Oh yeah. So the surplus, I don't remember the exact number, so I don't want to give them. But I know when Nathan Deal was governor, they hit a hard spot where they were cutting actually needed things out of the budget to balance a budget because Georgia's required to balance the budget. And they basically said back then, never again, like we're going to have a rainy day fund, and the state has that. And the reason now they talk about the surplus is because the rainy day fund is full. They have now capped the amount of money they're allowed to have in it. So now legally they actually have to do something else with it, right? And so then they turn around and talk about, hey, we're going to give it back to the citizens or whatever. I mean, let's be honest, it's our money.
Yeah.
The government doesn't make or sell anything. That money that they have in their budget is from me, from you, and from all the other citizens that pay into that, and the corporations that pay into the taxes, right? So there's quite a few things around that they could probably do with that. First and foremost, I think any tax dollars that aren't used need to go back to the people that paid them in. You paid taxes in, and we have a surplus in taxes. My first thought is it should go back to the people that need it.
Agreed.
So the other thing, there are plenty of infrastructure things going out there with DOT and everything else that, probably could use some help. The state of Georgia and water in a lot of places probably wouldn't be a bad thing to help, especially if you're going to start talking about these data centers and the amount of water that they bring in. But look, water is essential to life and all life, not just human life. I mean, animals and all of us. That probably wouldn't be a bad idea to start, thinking like, hey, if we're not going to give it back, then we need to do something to improve the life of the people who paid it in. I mean, government originally was bridges, roads, and protect the people. Outside of that, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that a surplus needs to go anywhere other than back to the people. If you're not roads, bridges, infrastructure, or protecting us, the rest of those, are probably going to have that pet project sticker on them. Now, not all of those are bad. Just saying, my first choice is going to say, send it back to the people.
I like that.
Or how about this? How about just not take it from them to start with?
Okay, there we go. Let's lower taxes. Let's get along without raising taxes. Right. But I know that you were a proponent of the T-Splost.
I was,
right?
Yes.
And I think the T-Splost was pretty popular. It passed.
It did.
How come we cannot get along with the money that we have now? Like, why do we need things like the T-Splost, other tax raises,
So again, this is one of those things, having been on the inside and looked at the budget for the number of years, being a commissioner and all that, a lot of people think the county's got all this money and, it's all there. You guys are just spending it in the wrong places. Well, I could tell you the top 3 or 4 or 5 things on the list are first responders. Like where they're, and rightly so, like the sheriff's office, the jail, correctional institute, EMS, like which one of those do you not want, right? Where do we take the money from? Because the sheriff's office is substantially behind other counties that are the same size as ours to the tune of, anyway, I won't get into it.
Do you mean numbers of deputies on the road or money? What do you mean by that?
Exactly. Yeah, so people-wise, material-wise, cars, and just the size, the budget, the whole thing. And look, the commissioners are doing everything they can to work with the sheriff. They're doing everything we try to figure it out, right? So now, why do you need a T-Splost, right? So we have. I'm not going to get into what all these things mean, but you have, of course, the budget for the road. You have money that comes back from the state called LMIG money that basically helps you also with roads. So we bring in enough money to repair the roads. And I think the last number I saw was we still had like 60 miles of road in Jackson County that was still unpaved. for the first time.
60 miles.
60 miles. So again, that's just one of the last numbers I remember seeing. So those roads obviously have to get paved. To do the projects that we want to do with widening roads or
more roundabouts.
More roundabouts. Yes, more roundabouts. There's just not in the budget to do that. Now you can wait on DOT, right? DOT, if you watch it, right, as things grow, the DOT
they'll eventually come
is coming out. But again, DOT is the state of Georgia Department of Transportation, right? They are responsible for, again, all 159 states. So, everybody is down there knocking on the door at the commissioner's office saying, hey, I need you to fix my road.
Yeah.
Right. And again, having a state rep in your county helps when he can say, hey, I drove that road this morning. Right. I don't want to drive that road like that next month. Kind of a conversation. Now that really doesn't happen like that, but it does help for them to knock on his door and say, hey, I'm experiencing this. I'm not just hearing about this from everybody else. Like, this is really what's happening. So you need T-Splosh because of the amount of money that it can bring in. You can bond that money and bring it in on a bond, and then the T-Splosh pays for that. So you can, let's say, bond the first $100 million, and you can go ahead and start your, the first $100 million worth of projects. And it helps every municipality and the county. But here's why I believe in T-Splosh. One, it's a consumption tax. But two, it went to the people. The people voted on whether they wanted it in the county or not. We have voted no in the past. We could have voted no this time. And that's the kind of thing I believe in. I believe in the splosh. I believe in things that the citizens get to vote on, not the guys down at the Capitol saying, hey, I'm going to put this bill on you, and this is what you're going to pay for us to come do your roads, right? I'm always a believer, like, we don't have to do this as a community, but that plan we talked about earlier, you can't get the commercial businesses to come in if you want them on the road systems that we have with the infrastructure that we have, right? T-Splosh is necessary for those things. I don't know if you've seen it, but at 5:00 coming off the exits on Highway 53, people are backed up to the half-mile marker in the emergency lane on the interstate trying to get off the interstate. Jefferson's not much better. Mm-hmm. I've driven by Jefferson, and it's still a pretty good distance out on the interstate. Not that putting this one exit is going to solve that, but it's sure going to help. Alleviate the people in the middle who can, get off on those two areas there. But I'm just a believer in taking it to the people. And if we don't want it as citizens of Jackson County, then we'll vote no, and we won't have it. If we do want it, then we'll vote yes, and we'll have it. And that's what we'll do. I don't like the, coming from the state, and this is how you're going to do it attitude. I didn't like it as a commissioner. I don't like it as a citizen. And I'm probably going to not like it as a representative, and that may be where the rub is for me with some of the things that they try to do and they want to do. That if there's going to be a rub for me, that's probably where I don't believe in iron fist. So
good to hear.
Yeah.
If you are elected to the seat, do you have anything that we haven't talked about yet? I don't want to say pet projects, but things that you would want to propose, things that you are interested in seeing the state enact down at the Capitol?
I don't have anything, earth shattering or anything like that. I do believe that we have to work on this property tax thing. Like there's got to be a way, right? And there's got to be a way with doing it without a couple of things, without it being, you hear people talk about it being a regressive tax on people who may already be on a fixed income, have already hit the senior tax exemption that we were able to put through a couple, that started this year. Then they go back to, oh my gosh, now I'm paying a sales tax. So you went from, now you don't have the property tax to, oh, here's 3 more cents on your sales tax, right? Those are the kind of problems that I think that we need to fix. There's one that they're working on right now that if it doesn't pass this year, that I'll definitely be on next year. I think it's House Bill 971, where the Empower College and Career Center, right? My kids go to a private school. If they want to go to Empower, I have to pay, I think it's like $500 a kid to let them use the facilities at Empower. Now, I spent almost 10 years of my life bringing that, help bring that school out of the ground. I pay my property taxes.
So you should get it for free.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I pay my property taxes. I pay for tuition for my kids to go to school. And now you're telling me that I need to pay for a school that is paid for by my taxes that I've paid in the amount of time that people around here have. It was designed for every student in Jackson County. That was the whole design of it.
Yeah.
And now you're going to make homeschool kids or private school kids or anyone else who wants access to that. So Bill 971, what happens is they don't get the what they call QBE credits. They don't get the money for that kid coming to the state. They don't recognize that kid coming into the school system for that time at Empower. So the school doesn't get the money for that kid spending the time. If, like my son who's at Jackson County High School, when he goes to Empower, because he's a student in the system, they see him move to Empower, so Empower gets that money for him. My other kids, because they're a private school, the school doesn't see them.
Gotcha.
Right? That bill says, hey, we're going to recognize at the state level, we're fixing that problem in the tax. And if the kids come over for whatever time they're there, that money is allotted for that. That's going to be a little extra paperwork, I'm sure, for school systems and all that. But, that's just one of those things that we have to do a better job with things like that. This kid, there's not a kid out there who's doesn't deserve the opportunity. I think there's 54 of these schools across the state who doesn't deserve that opportunity. And just because they're homeschooled or in a private school, the parents shouldn't be punished again for that kid.
Well, if they're at private school or homeschooled, we're still paying property taxes that go to the schools.
Right.
But the kids
can't use the school facilities.
Yeah.
Now, again, so my son, we're not going to get into all of this, but my son, the way he ended up in school, wanted to do the JROTC.
Okay.
So cool. I call it the Tim Tebow law, right? The homeschool kid that he was actually homeschooled. And when we put him in that program, I think we were like the first family in the county, I think, to use the facilities like that, where we had to actually sign him in and log him into the system and actually create him almost so that Empower could see him and get the credit. So it was an interesting thing to do. But that's one of those things these are opportunities that the kids deserve the opportunity to be a part of.
Sure.
The places like that they're changing kids' lives for generations. You got 18-year-old kids coming out being offered $60,000 for operating heavy equipment. Like, this thing is changing generations. And for us to sell any student, any child, hey, no, you can't do that. What if your mom and dad can't afford the $500?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I could pay it. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is, if they're doing it to my student, then they're going to do it to everybody else's. And there are people out there who can't afford to send their kid. And that's just not right.
Yeah. And Empower is an awesome program. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Very cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think people should know before we close?
No. We've covered a whole lot of topics here. At some point, I'd like to come back and maybe talk about more of a commercial, like business owner opportunities.
Absolutely.
In insurance, and because I know we talked about the vehicles and all that, but I think you and I had you did a really interesting presentation down in Houston about LLCs and how to, basically not open the door. And I think that's a conversation as an insurance agent and an attorney where we can help each other say, hey, here's how you set it up from the legal standpoint, and here's how you protect it from that standpoint and keep them separate. I mean, there's just so many opportunities there that people don't realize, having their employees running short errands for them on the clock.
Yeah.
Terrible idea. But I think we should do that at some point. But, as far as what I'm doing, look, I just want to help. My whole thing of being a commissioner and getting involved, even with Empower or the Chamber of Commerce or Rotary, it really is a servant heart thing for me. I just enjoy helping people. I enjoy solving problems. I enjoy hard problems. A lot of people don't like conflict and I don't mind them, right? Because I believe the conflict is how you come up with the best answer, right? It's everybody in the room working together, and that conflict actually ends up usually bringing a better resolution. But that's really what I want to do when I go down there. I want as much as I can to help the people of Jackson County and the people of the state of Georgia. There's some things down there I probably am not looking forward to, to being a part of, some of the things we talked about earlier. But
you don't want to roll in the mud with the other pigs?
Well, look, no, I don't. But
I shouldn't have said other pigs. I said the pigs down there.
I just, really it just comes down to helping, right? Even to one of the things we didn't talk about is I set up a foundation for the sheriff's office. So where your state income tax or your state taxes that you can pay to the sheriff's office in Jackson County and get dollar for dollar credit, keep the money in Jackson County.
Awesome. That was you?
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's programs like that. Empower's the same way. I think Jefferson is setting theirs up. Brazelton has one. There are opportunities that are at the state. If you know, those are the things I need to bring back to Jackson County.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's a way for us to keep our tax dollars local. Mm-hmm. I got to pay it to the state anyway. But if I owe the state $1,000 and I write that check to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office for $1,000, then I don't owe anymore, right? That $1,000 is now considered paid, and my money stayed in Jackson County. And we've raised a very good chunk of money already in our first year with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and Empower the same way. But those are the kind of things that I want to do. That's what I'm interested in doing is how do we push. I'm a home rule guy. I want the county to run Jackson County. Mm-hmm. They're here. They live here. I think they'd be good at it, But I think that for all the counties, right? And then we need to get involved at the state level to protect that and to protect the citizens as a whole and the integrity of things for the state of Georgia. That's what I believe our job down there is. Roads, bridges, infrastructure, protect people.
Awesome. Love it.
So,
how could people get in contact with you if they want to talk to you, ask you questions, things like that?
So there's always through my website, Bingham for State House. You can always use my cell phone, 678-628-3833. Or my office.
You give out your cell phone?
I do.
What was that number?
678-628-3833.
Cool.
Or you could just stop by my insurance office down in Brazelton. Be nice to the ladies. They didn't run for office. I did. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'm not a hard guy to find. I'm out in a lot of places.
See you all the time?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, really, that's it for me. I'll do my best to answer whatever questions. Not saying we're going to agree. You may not like my answer, but I'll give you the answer that I have or that I think is the right one.
Cool. Well, that's refreshing.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I answer the phone, or at least I return the call.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Chad. I appreciate it. We'll be watching the race very closely, and good luck to you.
All right. Thanks, Jerry.